Hello and welcome to Preview Percy for the Hard of Thinking. This week we're having a look at Arsenal. We play them on Saturday, of course, 3 p.m. kickoff, which is as it should be. They're currently sitting in 10th place, which is above Everton on goal difference, with 37 points from the 27 games played, which leaves them amusingly behind both Sheffield United and Burnley. They've won their last two in the league, 4-0 over Newcastle and 3-2 against Everton. They weren't in league action last weekend because of the League Cup final. Prior to that, they'd drawn 4 on the trot, away at Palace, Burnley and Chelsea, 1-1, 2-2 and 0-0 respectively, and 1-1 at home to Sheffield United. Daisy, the full-time personal assistant with the beautiful smile, informs me that Mikel Arteta, who replaced Dick Emery, who was dismissed for being, awful, but nobody liked him, did 2 bits of business in the January window, both of which came in the loan market. Spaniard Pablo Murray arrived on an end-of-season job from Brazil. A centre-back by trade, Murray spent 3 years on the books at Manchester City. Though if he actually visited the city, it would have been a bit of a waste of his time. He spent the 3 years playing for Girona, NAC and Deportiva La Coruña, none of which are known for their proximity to Greater Manchester. Arsenal's deal with Flamengo includes an option to buy at the end of the season. The second arrival was Portuguese fullback Cedric Soares, who's arrived from Southampton. It's a bit of an odd one, this. The player turned up in a leg brace and was unavailable for selection for the first few weeks of his loan spell. Some sort of fee seems to have been paid to Southampton, £5 million being the fee that's been mentioned. Presumably this acts as some form of consolation payment for Southampton, given that the player's contract is up in the summer. Suarez is due to start training next week, so he won't be about on Saturday. Another absentee will be defender Lucas Torreira, whose season probably came to an end the other night when he broke his ankle in the FA Cup win at Portsmouth. The top scorer is of course Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. His return of 17 goals from 25 league games is a decent haul by anybody's standards. However, in recent weeks, it's been the one he missed against Olympiacos for which he's garnered most headlines, and rightly so. It was a bit of a belter. Notwithstanding the miss, his contract is up at the end of next season, which means that teams can officially speak to him from January 2021, which means that Liverpool probably spoke to him weeks ago. Let's move on to the wild and wacky world of association football then, and let's spare a moment to revel in the curse of Percy that struck at Tottenham in midweek as Gedson Fernandes took one of the worst penalties ever seen to knock Spurs out of the cup. Norwich keeper Krul was credited with a save, but frankly you could have saved that one, whoever you are. Either way, that'll teach Fernandes to snub us. Last week was important for a number of reasons. Not least, there was the stroll along the sewer. Now, estimates as to how many were there vary from the club's official statement that said absolutely none. There were lots of passers-by who just happened to have the odd banner on them, but once we got down to business with the Photoshop, I think you'll find it was remarkably quiet for the time of day, to the slightly more fanciful figure of 65 million put forward by a slightly deaf observer who got the march confused with the question, what is the population of the United Kingdom? As for the real number, well, I'm the last person to ask. Partly because I was there and being in the middle of it all, I had no sense of perspective, but mainly because I'm rubbish at gauging crowds. The figure was certainly a multiple of thousands and was certainly a good indicator of how a significant proportion of the sport feels about the way the club is run at the moment. Whatever the figure, it was certainly a hell of a lot more than the 200 old men and a dog figure purported by one of the more obnoxious inhabitants of the club's press room. The broadcaster, if I might use that word wrongly, in question, is not well liked by those who occupy the press facilities at home games, and not just because if they arrive late they discover that much of the pre-match food is gone. I won't publish in full what one respected journalist commented about the personality-free food vacuum on the grounds of decency, but those of you familiar with the insult that begins with the phrase, I'm no gynecologist, but will be aware of the punchline and consequently of the esteem in which the person in question is held. I'd say here's a suitable case for self-isolation, virus or no virus. I was slightly saddened by Martin Allen's comments on video. Now, on face value, Martin's comments were not, strictly speaking, inaccurate. And as the old saying goes, whilst I disagree with what he said, I'd fight for his right to say it. The club might disagree with free speech, but I'm kind of fond of it. However, Martin's comments addressed only one of the myriad grievances that many of us have with the way the club is run. And in my opinion, he didn't really even address that particular area very well. It was also rather concerning to hear this chap who claimed to have been one of Bobby Moore's closest pals, and to hear him claim that the Great One would be spinning in his grave over the protests. Now, I've absolutely no idea how close the chap was to Bobby. I met the great man a few times in the 1960s, and I'd no way represent myself as one of his friends. However, I do know that our current owners did in no way, shape or form offer Bobby a job at Birmingham in the manner that was suggested by the chap. Bobby had passed away before they took over at St Andrews, which is something that one might have thought a close friend might have probably known, perhaps. Now, in the interest of accuracy, and you probably won't see such even-handedness on the official site, it's true to say that Bobby was given a job at the Sunday Sport between 1986 and 1990. This was where his stuff was ghost-written by a chap called Hugh Southern, who was another Sport employee. Which, if you didn't know that fact, you will probably now be saying a lot of things suddenly make sense. But that was all a good 3 years before our owners arrived in Birmingham. One can draw a number of conclusions for all this. Either the chap wasn't as good a mate of Bobby's as he claimed, or if we're being charitable, maybe the chap's memory's going, or maybe it was just misquoted. Whatever, he was just talking twaddle. On the pitch, the game was a welcome improvement. Yes, I know Southampton are, in modern parlance, our bitches, as I believe the saying is. It was still a good run-out. It built on the improvement that we started up at Anfield, and we had a fine debut from Bowen, who showed up well throughout, though obviously the goal was the headline grabber. Once again, the formation showed the benefit of playing someone in partnership alongside Haller. Quite why this should be such an issue for our managers to see, Lord alone knows. Pellegrini, who nominally at least signed the player, ought to have been aware of the fact that his best days in Germany came as part of a pair, and if Moyes wasn't aware of this, why not? Haller took his goal well and contributed throughout in the knowledge that Antonio was only a nod on away. Heck, he even got one of those perfectly executed Ribena things that should have seen Antonio bag a second. Antonio, of course, was his usual force of nature. He scared the bejesus out of me, so what he did to the opposition doesn't bear thinking about. At the back, the youngster Ngakia had another fine game, to the extent that now if Fredericks were available tomorrow, I'd think twice about bringing him back. Fredericks is of course ruled out, as are Souček, got another couple of weeks to go, and Yarmolenko, ditto. Then there is Wilshere. There is talk about his contract being cut short and him being sent away to live on a farm, like that dog he used to have as a kid that disappeared. As for the prediction, well, this is going to be a good test. We need to keep this momentum going. The importance of last weekend's win became all too apparent after other results weren't exactly optimum. If Watford v Liverpool had happened in Italy, people would be looking at betting patterns in Southeast Asia. If we play as we did against Liverpool and Southampton, and the boosting confidence that will be so vital over the next couple of months will be palpable, I think we can get something here. Maybe not a win, but on the whole we can come away with a point. So Mr. Winston, please, I will wager the £2.50 that would have gone on something medicinal to ward off this damned virus, and I'll stick it on a 1-1 draw. Enjoy the game, and remember the full version of this is available on the website at kumb.com. Includes a rather good Preview Percy's poser this week, even though I say so myself.